Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. Tensions between Turkey and Israel have been escalating. Turkey has issued arrest warrants against 37 Israeli officials, including the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, over claims of genocide.
Israel has countered by insisting Turkey shall have no role to play in the multinational security force in Gaza that's supposed to assume control from Hamas and the Israel Defense Force, as agreed to as part of Trump's peace plan.
Joining us now live to discuss is Dr. Dan Diker. He's president of the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. Dr. Diker, thank you so much for joining us here in studio.
Very good morning to you in New York.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to jump right in and get your initial understandings of this tension now between Israel and Turkey playing out.
Much of what the West doesn't know is that Turkey is is breaking away to become the new neo-Ottoman Islamic Empire in the Middle East. And they see the main obstacle to that goal is the state of Israel. They have been a frenemy, and now they're really an adversary of Israel, and they are mobilizing enormous pressure on the American administration, President Trump, in order to restrain Israel from defeating Hamas, which is a direct threat to the United States' interest in the Middle East, America first, and they are a strategic threat to Israel. And now what they've done, as you've reported here this morning, is to engage in a type of Soviet, Chinese regime, Iranian regime political warfare to try to isolate Israel by accusing it of genocide and filing papers with international courts. This is intolerable. The United States has got to recognize and act. The Turkish regime is not a friend of the United States, notwithstanding President Trump's embrace for political reasons of Erdogan. And I think, as they say in Latin, caveat emptor, may the buyer beware when it comes to Erdogan's neo-Ottoman vision, aspirations to control the Middle East and replace the Iranian regime as the major power in the region.
So what caused that shift, or was it always that way? Because Turkey was pivotal in the recent ceasefire agreement.
Absolutely. Turkey, first of all, we know is the second most powerful nation in NATO. So on the one hand, here it has this, very profound military security relationship with Western powers. And on the other hand, it, together with Qatar and some of the other Arab countries, were instrumental in signing on to the Trump 20-point plan, the first stage of which return the living hostages that Hamas had kept in their death tunnels for the past 2 years. They did play an important role there, but they understood the game. And they're playing out the game right now by calling these horrific propagandistic terms and accusations against Israel, and that puts pressure on President Trump and the American administration, stresses the relationship, because the president knows that for now, in order to make nominally the Trump plan, the second stage of the Trump plan, which is to demilitarize Gaza, which is to force Hamas to give up its arms, which is to bring an international stabilization force, that Turkey wants to continue playing a role, has offered to put 2,000 men armed in Gaza, which would be a strategic threat to the state of Israel, and Israel will not allow that to happen. Turkey knows that creates a very problematic divide and creates tension between Israel and its greatest ally, the United States. They're playing the long game here.
Yeah, it really is fascinating how you're breaking this down, and how just because multiple entities are opposed to Israel, that they're also jockeying against each other behind the scenes. So I want to get your view on how this extremism, Islamic extremism, directed against Israel gets funded, and is that now, in your view, changing from one set of players to potentially another set of players?
Absolutely. Islamic extremism today, which must be emphasized and underscored in the United States every single day, is being sourced by Qatar and sourced in Turkey. Turkey, we know, is a headquarters for Hamas leadership. They plan terror attacks out of Istanbul. The same thing in Qatar. Qatar has spent tens of billions of dollars in the United States buying up organizations and investing billions in the American stock markets, controlling university courses and even departments with billions and billions of dollars. The ISGAP organization has done great research on this out of the United States. This is what is called soft power political warfare, and the Qataris, even though the administration, the Qataris have called one another allies. These, I mean, again, may the buyer beware. This is an Islamic power. This is Hamas in other clothing. And this is exactly what Israel has recognized and has tried to warn. And it's very, very important to understand that Qatar has been penetrating as a Muslim Brotherhood country for several decades. And they work quietly, but this is a nefarious country that is backing Hamas and backing other Muslim Brotherhood actors in Syria and in Egypt. And we've got to recognize that if the President of the United States, who has done tremendous work in the region, and his 20-point plan theoretically should definitely be celebrated, and he's done great things for his great ally, the State of Israel, that the Qataris are not friends of the United States or the West. They have an Islamic goal, and they are pursuing that goal quietly through terror financing, and that will ultimately destabilize the Middle East and achieve exactly the opposite of what the president wants to achieve, which is a secure, safe, and prosperous Middle East with Israel and Saudi Arabia leading the way together with the United States.
In our last minute, I just want to understand then who should rule Gaza, or what peace force? Indonesia looks like they want to step up. They're the largest Muslim country. Should the UN have a role with some of the things that have happened questionably with UNRWA? Who should be in this peace force if Turkey should not be? Excellent question.
The truth is that there is no Arab country, not the Saudis, and no other, not the Indonesians, that are prepared to confront Hamas militarily. And if you look at the little writing under the news reports today, as we're speaking today, that the Indonesians are prepared to offer 20,000 men. Those are for peacekeeping operations, for infrastructure building, for stabilization. No one's talking about confronting Hamas with arms and to disarm them by force, to demilitarize by force. There's only one force that can do that. The Israel Defense Forces. They've done it. They can do it. They must do it. It's on their border. How we should rebuild Gaza. The Middle East is structured by family, clans, and tribes. In Gaza, there are hundreds of families who want to defend themselves against the Hamas. Unfortunately, in major American media, we don't see the huge outcry of Gazans that are saying, Hamas, you've ruined our lives. They're afraid for their lives to say that on television. It's not a democracy, it's a theocracy. But the truth is, the way Gaza should emerge is through local councils, local districts, having families, clans, and tribes defend themselves against this bloody extremist regime called Hamas. That's the outcome. The Western notion of a Westphalian nation state, like the United States and like Europe.
Jefferson democracy, maybe not happening.
Jefferson and Jacksonian democracy do not work in the Middle East. It is a different culture. I think the president recognized that when he went and spoke in Saudi, and good for him. That's the way Gaza and the West Bank, the Palestinian areas of the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, as it's known in Israel, those areas under Palestinian rule, the Palestinian Authority has to be kicked out, and that's what most of the local population is saying. And the local families in all of the major areas under Palestinian Authority control should be turned over to local councils based on those families and clans that are the notables in those areas. That's just like the Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates creates a similar model that can be copied and pasted into other areas across the Middle East.
Otherwise, as you say, buyer beware. Dr. Dan Diker, thank you so much for coming in, sharing your insights. Clearly a hotbed, and we're all watching very closely as this next phase of Trump's 20-point plan hopefully goes into play successfully. Thank you.
Thank you.